I'm headed up into the Cascade foothills east of Eugene. As I mentioned at the beginning of the year, I'm making some changes to my camping setup, and I need to make a little test run to see if what I've done so far is going to work the way I've visualized. I've acquired a few bits of new gear to try out. Well, some new, some used, but all new to me. I poked around on the map and selected an area I've never explored before. I don't really have time to do any real exploring today. I just want to find a nice spot to set up camp and try everything out. Between maps and satellite photos, I've identified some little spurs that I think might yield a decent campsite. While I often look for high points with nice views, today I'm in the mood to be next to some water. Here's a spot next to a river, but it's kind of large and sterile. I definitely want to look at some other options before settling. I like this spot better, but I'm not yet very far from the nearest town. It just doesn't feel remote enough. I'm going to push a little deeper into the wilderness. Seems to be a high water campsite and a low water campsite. Not bad, but I'm still curious about the other possibles I flagged.
Well, I think I'm going to call this spot good.
In retrospect, I should have taken one of the earlier spots. I was enchanted by the thought of falling asleep to the sound of those rapids, but that noise in the background is rather annoying in the video, and I apologize for that. I promise to never again camp next to rushing rapids, or at least not do any filming if I do. As I mentioned in my New Year's video, One of my goals this year was to improve my sleeping setup. My in-car sleeping platform has proven to be quick and convenient, and it's great never to worry about rain or wind or anything. But squirming around in the very small amount of space left inside my car, trying to get into my sleeping bag or change clothes, or even just lace up my boots, is very uncomfortable. It has become the part of camping that I dread, and I don't want to dread any of it. I looked seriously at rooftop tents, and I don't hate the idea. I think I would probably like it. But my budget is limited, and even the least expensive rooftop tents are still expensive. Plus, really, the only rooftop tent designs which appeal to me are the sleek, hardcase models which open like clamshell. But those are pretty much the most expensive rooftop tents you can find. So, I needed to find a solution with more space than the interior of my car, and it would still offer me a fast setup and breakdown, but not cost thousands of dollars. So you might have guessed where I was going with this, but yes, I decided to get a Gazelle tent. These are definitely not the cheapest ground tents available, but far, far more affordable than a rooftop tent. This model being on sale for $100 off clinched it for me. You've probably seen these popping up everywhere on Instagram. I'm not one to jump on the latest trend by any means. I did hours and hours of research on every possible option that sets up and breaks down relatively quickly, and the conclusion I reached was that the Gazelle is simply the best option and worth the investment. And I did buy this myself. I'm not sponsored in any way, nor am I involved with Gazelle's ambassador program. I think the reason you're seeing so many of these is that many people are reaching the same conclusion as me. It's just a really great tent.
Well, those of you who know me have probably heard me say I would never sleep in a ground tent again, but that was before the Gazelle tent. It pretty much addresses all the things that I don't like about ground tents. It's fast to set up, it's fast to break down, even if it gets wet and you have to open it back up at home so that it dries, it's fast to set up and it's fast to put back away. The vertical walls mean no more stooping down along the edges of the tent. You can use all the space. You can set up a cot so that you're not down on the ground with an air mattress. And even the smaller T3 that I have, I can stand up in the middle of it, which is great for getting up in the morning and getting dressed without squirming around in the back seat of my car. It's really a game changer. Gotta say, compared to squirming around inside my car, this is not too shabby. Oh yeah. I have to thank Edward Shin and Big Tent Outdoors for hooking me up with this Claymore light. This thing is amazing. And this is the first night I've taken it camping. I've already been using it around the house and in the garage working on the car. It's fantastic. It's got a magnet on the back. I can just stick it wherever I want. So I'm not done putting my new kitchen setup together, but here's a little sneak peek. This Camp Chef stove is sort of the centerpiece that I designed the entire kitchen setup around. And this is a little bigger and a little nicer than I probably normally would have got, but it's used. I got a very, very good deal on it. One important element of trying to do things on a budget is when there's opportunities to get something good for a good price, well, get it. It's much better than spending the same amount of money on something new that's lower quality. I look for deals on Craigslist and eBay, and I've purchased a few things from friends who upgraded to something new themselves.
This little tank holds the equivalent of about 5 disposable green canisters, but only costs about $3 to refill. It will pay for itself quickly.
So the drawer is completely DIY. I designed and built this myself after watching lots and lots and lots of videos. I've got pots and pans stored here, a double work surface. I can get at stuff without necessarily removing the work surface. I thought about going to a fridge, but I wasn't ready to get into a whole dual power thing. And so for Christmas, I received a much better cooler than what I had been using. So we'll see how that goes this year. I think that given that I was been able to survive 3-day trips on that crappy old cooler that I had, I think this one will take care of me. Before the opportunity came up to get a hold of this thing, I was already planning on getting some kind of 2-burner propane stove. As much as I like my little single burner butane stove, it posed a couple of issues. One was that there was only one burner, so cooking anything that was the slightest bit elaborate was very difficult because I'd have to cook something, set it aside, cook something else, set stuff aside. So I wanted to have the ability to be cooking 2 things at once. The other thing I wanted to get away from was disposable canisters. That's a problem with the butane or even using the green propane canisters. The other problem that I was having with the butane was that in very cold temperatures, down below 30, the butane just doesn't flow, and I had a hard time keeping enough flame going. So it was time to move on to a better cooking setup. Since I'm no longer sleeping in the car, I didn't necessarily need a platform here. I wanted to keep the possibility of sleeping inside the car. One, if Lucy wants to come with me, she prefers to sleep inside the car, and so there's still a space to sleep here. And 2, in a pinch, if I roll into camp super late, it's pouring down rain, or whatever, I don't want to set up the tent, I can still sleep inside the car if I absolutely need to. I will have a whole video about how I designed and built this whole new setup and what my thinking was with some of the choices that I made here. I just wanted to give you a quick preview for now. All right, it's getting chilly. I'm gonna have to get a fire going. Alright, I'm just making a simple dinner tonight. I've got some pork chops, and I'm going to saute up some zucchini and some mushrooms with some garlic, and yeah, that's it. A nice healthy grain-free meal. While those mushrooms start to saute, I'm going to go ahead and cut up the zucchini. I'm cooking those mushrooms and zucchini separately for now. And when they're getting a little closer, I'll just combine them in one pan so I can start the pork chops. Magnet on that Claymore light sticks right to the hub of the Gazelle tent. That's perfect. Morning. To be making coffee and heating up water for oatmeal at the same time. Here's how the back of the car looks with that stuff packed in. Once I finish the kitchen, I will have a complete video showing everything I did, how I did it, and what my thinking was. So I've got a few more details to tend to back there, and when it's done, I'll show you the whole thing beginning to end. Well, looks like I'm getting close to civilization, so time to air up and head home.